Right, this is what is fresh off the press this morning. 1,600 schools to remain shut. That is what we have on the front page of the Standard today. Deluge of death. The institutions are either submerged or heavily damaged that no learning can take place. Teachers are also up in arms saying they are yet to receive funds, while the minister insists they spend what they received last time. The story continues on page 2 of the Standard today. Linturi, I'm not a fertilizer expert. Linturi appeared as a witness in his own case where he poked holes into the ouster motion. He further stated that he had no hand in the procurement of the commodities. This story is well fleshed out for you on page 4, looking at the teaser on top here. And Route to Africa, let's up our fertilizer game. That story on page 11 of the Standard. Why Karua is pushing for Mount Kenya meeting on page 8 of the Standard today. And also pain and tears for flood victims. And we can see Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua laying a wreath during the Requiem Mass for flood victims at Morgas grounds in Mai Mahill, Nakuru County yesterday. Also, a family member is overwhelmed during a mass. And the story continues on page 3 of the Standard today. And just remember, as we mentioned earlier, today is a pivotal day. Not only are we planting trees, but also we stand in solidarity with these families that lost their loved ones through the devastating effects of the floods that swept away their livelihoods and their loved ones as well. And you can see one of the member of a family there in a Wipitia remote, and some of the pictures also laid there or splashed there where the Deputy President is laying the wreath. That story, you can follow it inside the Standard as well on page 3, as I've mentioned. This is how the Standard is looking today. Make sure you grab a copy for yourself. Also, 1.1 billion shillings bill for Ruto's advisors. This is how much they take away. 6 advisory units will blow 280.5 million shillings in salaries and packs for the year starting July. Spending the cost of maintaining a coterie of President Ruto's advisors will cross the 1 billion shillings mark in the next financial year, with the bulk of the allocation going into salaries, travel and entertainment in an era when the state is struggling to rein in a gaping budget deficit. You have a story on page 4 and 5 of the Daily Nation. And these are some of the advices there. We can try and just go through what allocations they have for their specific departments. We have economic transformation, Augustine Chariot, 239.4 million shillings. We have 194.5 million shillings Council of Economic Advisors. We have also 129.2 million shillings going to Women Rights Advisor, Harry Chigai. We have 109.7 million shillings National Security Advisor, Monica Juma. We have 100 million shillings Fiscal Affairs and Budget Policy, Henry Rotich. We have 55.7 million shillings Council of Climate Change Advisor. This is what Ali Mohammed, of course, and his docket, the Council of Climate Change Advisor or Advisory, is raking in. And the total spending, including headquarters and salaries, will cost taxpayers 1.1 billion shillings. And that is a story that you want to follow in today's publication. Also revealed inside the plot to finish Azimio. This is what is on page 10 of today's Daily Nation. Political games, last-minute changes to Boma Stocks report. Legislative proposals set for introduction before the Senate have exposed a silent scheme by the Kenya Kwanza side aimed at doing away with coalition political parties in a move that could have spelled a death knell to the Raila Odinga's Azimio la Umoja One Kenya coalition party. And you can follow it on page 10, as I've mentioned. Why some schools will not reopen on Monday. Mashogu gives an advice here. As schools reopen on Monday for the delayed second term, the government has announced that some institutions in at least 7 counties will remain closed. Speaking in Nairobi yesterday, Education Cabinet Secretary Ezekiel Machogu said the schools have been badly hit by the floods. That is on page 2 of today's Daily Nation. On the side, but we can also try and tease out some of the stories that are highlighted here. Remember also you have the DN2 Pullard magazine coming in handy for you. A day in the life of a 16-year-old. That is a story that you have. Or the publication that you have a Pullard magazine inside the Daily Nation. Linturi in spirited fight against ouster motion. Agriculture CS Bithika Linturi pokes holes into each of the 3 allegations leveled in the motion that was sponsored by Bumula MP Jack Wamboka. That is on the back page of the Daily Nation. Also, nation mourns victims of Mai Mahiu tragedy. Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua says the state has set aside 300 million shillings to build houses for the displaced families. That story on page 8. That is where it's tucked away. All right, let's see what the Star is holding for us. Mystery errors, Rock Ruto Raila talks deal. That is what the Star is holding today. Foul play, as we discover major changes in 3 Bomas dialogue bills. That is what the flagger is reading here. Some of the changes could have major implications, including possible Azimio disbandment. You have a story on page 6 of the Star today. Also, Kenyans borrowed 2.3 billion shillings daily on Fuliza in 2023. And this is from the Safaricom results for 2023-2024. You can see the total revenue, 330 billion shillings, 4.2 trillion shillings. Total value of the amount disbursed via M-Pesa since 2007, 4.95 billion shillings amount. 21 million borrowers have taken from Hustler Fund since inception. 18.9% Fuliza disbursements went up from 701 billion shillings to 834 billion shillings. And all that is tucked away on page 12 of the Star, where you'll get all the gritty details. KEMSA to stop supplying counties over 3 billion shillings debt. That is a fresh health crisis looms in the counties after a Senate committee ordered the Kenya Medical Supplies Authority to stop delivering medical supplies to counties over a 3 billion shillings debt. The rest of the details on page 7 of the Star. Doctors to earn 1.4 million shillings monthly in strike windfall. The highest paid doctor will now earn 1.4 million shillings every month, according to the return to work formula signed by the medics, unions and the government. The top paid doctors based at the Kenyatta National Hospital, I should say, previously earned approximately 1 million shillings. The lowest paid doctors at the referral hospital will be paid 413,785, up from 289,186 before the strike. And you have a story on page 2 of today's Star. All right, let's see what the Business Daily is holding for us. Safaricom takes New Ethiopia hit as profit rises to 63 billion shillings. Kenya profit grows 13.7 billion shillings to record 84.74 billion shillings. I gave you all the details there from the front page of a Star, but you can get the rest of a scoop on page 2 of the publication today. Taxpayers to pick up 1.1 billion shillings bill for Ruto advises on page 5 of the Business Daily. Health faces 3.7 billion shillings budget cut. The Treasury has proposed to reduce the budget for the higher education loans board by 3.7 billion shillings in the financial year starting July. In what could affect thousands of needy students, I just need to remind you that as now they're dropping the budgetary allocations that from HELB, we have also the office of the First Lady increasing also their budgetary allocation for that particular office. And you can read the rest of the details on page 4 of the Business Daily. Stanbic Bank posts 3.9 billion shillings profit in first quarter is another story that you can doggedly follow it on page 8 of the Business Daily. CBK plans now newborns platform for hustlers, and that is tucked away on page 14 of the Business Daily today. Make sure you get all the details in the publication today. We cross over to Tanzania, where water projects on track despite 17% budget drop. The government said yesterday it will continue to implement key water projects in the next financial year, despite the water ministry's budget having dropped to 628 billion shillings from 756 billion shillings. And you have a story on page 2 of the publication today. 77% of people, or that is a percentage of people who had access to clean and safe water in urban and rural areas by December 2020, up from 74.5% in December 2021. And what new vehicle assembly plant means, that is on page 2 of the publication. Clean energy, tax cuts 2 years away. Tanzanians will have to wait for at least 2 years before they see a drop in the prices of clean cooking appliances. That story on page 2 of the publication today. Government lays bare tropical storm, Idaya's impact, and is on page 3 of the Citizen today. In Uganda, census begins today. Just to remind you, census starts reveals hope amid glitches. UBOS board chairman Albert Biamugisha says the government is funding 98% of a 333 billion shillings census budget. Only individuals who spent last night in Uganda will be counted in the 10-day exercise. Whether refugees or other foreign nationals, well, you can read all the details on page 4 and 5 on the publication today. And there is enumerators posed with tablets and backpacks given to them by the Uganda Bureau of Statistics to conduct the 2024 National Housing and Population Census, which starts today. The enumerators complained of non-payment of allowances and missing gadgets. You can follow the story inside the publication in Uganda. All right, you have the scoop as well. It is Friday. Make sure you get all the scoop inside the scoop. And the new times in Rwanda. Rwanda faces $7 billion funding gap to implement climate action plan. Rwanda's climate action plan comprises 557 specific projects and technical assistance activities. You can follow the story on page 3 of the publication. Over 3,000 graduate from Rwanda Polytechnic. And you can see them here celebrating. Some of 3,024 graduates posed for a group photo during Rwanda Polytechnic's 7th graduate ceremony at BK Arena on Thursday. While presiding over the ceremony, Prime Minister Edward Ngirente underscored the importance of technical education in bridging the skills gap and promoting employability, urging continued support from both parents and the private sector. Also on the sidebar, innovation, over 6,000 young Rwandan entrepreneurs to secure funding, and Rwanda to deploy a new system for improved land services. All that in today's publication. And this week's the East African Breast for Hunger. This has been the splash due to torrential rains that have killed about 500 people in East Africa and destroyed infrastructure that will take billions to repair. Experts further predict food shortages, blamed on destruction of farmlands in the breadbasket. You have a story on page 4 and 5 of today's publication. And also an insert you can see of, or a related picture there, a section of the damaged Naivasha highway in Kenya, near the area where dozens of people died after heavy floods this week, destroyed homes, vehicles, and everything in its way. That is a publication this week. I'll be showing you also what we have on, well, it's here, The Economist. Europe in mortal danger, an interview with Emmanuel Macron, and this is the latest publication. The new signs of disinformation and Kosam's physical profligacy, conflicts on campus, feeling horny, drugs or dragons meet erotic fiction. All that is in the publication. All right, and that is the Europe publication. International one is Truth and Lies. The new sense of disinformation is the main topic there. The rest of the details I've actually highlighted for you. They're tucked away there on page, on the recent publication. And that is what we do have there on the latest publication. I will show you what we have on China Daily and the rest of the international publications as well. But for now, I've created FaceTime, as I mentioned earlier, with Kipruto Rapkirwa, who is a governance and policy analyst. Time to unveil their faces. And also we have with us Barak Muluka, who is a strategic communications advisor. We have Professor Kifike Jonah Kinduria. Kindiki. I got all mixed up with the names there, right, with the name flaps. Right, this is Jonah Kindiki, who is a governance and policy analyst. And also we do have with us as well Dr. Martin Law, who is advocate of the High Court and also head of Department School of Law. Right, if you could just block the earpiece for me. It's confusing me. It will be good. But let's see our faces and the voices as well. Not hear our faces, see our faces and hear our voices.
Yeah. Dibal, it's a morning to you. It's my pleasure that we are meeting again this Friday to talk about a raft of things, including growing of trees, or whether planting is the appropriate word, is a matter that we shall discuss. I'm also happy that the floods are subsiding and the country is almost back to normal. We thank the effort of the people who have undertaken the exercise of trying to restore order. And we would expect more from the government of the day, given the fact that that is their duty and their responsibility to make sure that every Kenyan feels safe. Finally, I think we need to spend more time thinking on how to improve afforestation of our country, because 63 years ago, we had a similar situation. But the water that time looked cleaner than the water today. Today, the water that you see in most of the highways, most of the waterways, is like blue tea. It's a situation that worries me because environmental degradation has taken place for the last 60 years or so within our country. We don't seem to care about what we're doing. And I hope we shall be able to define that planting of trees is just the beginning of an exercise. Growing of trees should be the final product that each Kenyan should be proud of. And instead of thinking of the system of punishing those who mess the environment, we should also be thinking of the exercise of rewarding those who are able to take care of the environment, so that our reward punishment system must be balanced in a way that each and every person feels he has been able to do something useful to his motherland.
Thank you. Barak Mruga, good morning.
Morning. I'm happy to be here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So today, I expected all of you will have come with at least some seedlings. After this, we have a ceremony here. We have a green park. You can go and plant trees. All of you just
there,
or you left them at
plant. They're out there. We will plant, but as Mheshimiwa says, the growing, because planting is a moment, growing is a process.
No, don't start being philosophical way too early. I'm just simply asking, where is your seedling?
Out there, seedlings. And it's Mheshimiwa who is saying, it is a moment, you plant.
Which is the moment to plant.
So growing.
Dibali, you need to understand that when they said in Kiswahili kupanda miti,
Yes,
my brother Baraka Mluka thought that he's supposed to climb the tree. So he's still
Barak is overbraining it.
These are serious issues. You dig the hole, you put there manure or fertilizer or whatever, you put there the seedling, you cover, you pour water, you go away. What happens?
Yeah. The rains
after that.
The rains come.
What happens after that? So it is not just about tree planting, it is about tree growing. You have to look after the seedlings and nurture them to maturity.
Yeah.
Ndio kupanda miti.
But not to climb the tree.
Not to climb literally.
Hata hiyo utapanda baadaye, lakini lazima
upande
na ukuze.
Panda kwanza, then
upande na ukuze, na kisha baadaye utapanda pia.
Fantastic, fantastic. All right, let's hear from Professor Kindeki. Good morning.
Morning to you.
We missed you. You were marooned also in Meru. What happened last Friday?
There were no floods in Meru.
The road was cut off.
The roads were cut off. You know, Meru is a hilly place. We live, there's slopes of Mount Kenya. And you see, because of the terrain of the land, the force of the water from, uphill weakens the bridges and all that. So actually it was very, very, very bad. There were no floods, but you see the passage of water in these bridges was not constructing, expecting a lot of, to take a lot of water. So because of the rains, a lot of water, a lot of volume of water going downstream made the roads and some of the roads impassable. And it wasn't very good actually. One of the section of road was cut halfway, and the vehicles could not be able to pass through. So they were to be diverted by police, and a lot of mess around there. People were using the alternative route. You know, when you're in Meru, there are two routes that you drive to Nairobi: the Timau route, Nanyuki to Nyeri, Karatina, Nyeri, and then back to around Sagana. But by the way, even River Tana, if these rains could have continued for another few weeks, I think the bridge connecting the whole of Eastern, Northeastern, and Central could be cut off, because the roads are just slightly a few meters away from the bridge. So the volume of water from the mountain and the rains is too much. It's not a lowland, but you see the water going down. It's a lot of force. So that's one of the reasons why I didn't make it on Friday. But we thank God, here we are today, and the rains are subsiding. But Dibar, it's unfortunate that as schools open, some children are going to miss schools, or because of some schools are being used by people and displaced because of these floods. And I think it's something I think the government is going to consider, so that none of the children is left behind when others go back to school. Although it's a small number, but it's very important, because the news is that we get is about 1,600 schools may not reopen because of issues to do with the flooding. And therefore, you can imagine 1,600 schools multiplied. These are public schools, I believe, maybe a few private schools. But if you multiply with the number of children, you can see how many children are going to miss classes as we open on Monday. But we do believe that the rains are going to subside, and maybe the right actions are going to be taken by the government of the day, so that all children go back to school. Having said that, this is a week also today is a day for planting trees. I think it's good that we don't become too philosophical like my colleague here. Let's plant trees. It is a work of God to make them grow, because you bring water and to bring rains and you know, and of course even plants is, you never know. All these things is nature, and sometimes you can't describe God through floods or through rains or through any other. So we just leave everything to God. But we do believe that people should take this exercise seriously, actually, so that we plant as many trees as possible. If we are about over 50 million people in this country, less children, and we say hundreds, maybe 40 or 30 million, and each one of us plants 2 trees, you can see how many trees we plant per year and how our country would look like. I think we as Kenyans, we forget things so easily. There are floods and people are really worried because of the climate change, and then we go and plant trees. But after that, they are not nurtured. You don't find these trees. So I think we need to plant trees and take care of them and nurture them so that they can grow and change our environment. It's very, very important.
Exactly what Barak is emphasizing.
Yeah.
Right. Let's hear from Dr. Martin Olo. Today, Jaramogi Odinga's.
I must remember that today is a day that we are demonstrating patriotism by planting trees, taking a holiday. So I agree with you. When we live here, we must plant a few trees at the standard here, because it's very important that several years down the line we should be able to come and say, yes, on this day we planted this one. Now there are two things. Yes, God takes care of everything, but no one ever went and planted anything and waited, because then the weeds could overrun the trees and so on. So yes, there's nurturing. There is planting and there is also nurturing. So we need both. So Barak is not overthinking it. He's simply saying, look, let us also learn to be consistent, not just, we should not just treat things as events, but as processes, as life. Having said that, I think that this country has witnessed some of the biggest destruction in terms of our forest cover. And unlike those days when we actually practice agroforestry and we planted trees as a matter of course, as part of our farming activities, these days we have people with pieces of land that are fallow, idle, and not even a tree is growing there. These are not the days when in places like Barak, Mulukas, Emmanuelia, things like guavas and other things just grew. Yeah, and other fruits. These are not those days. These days you have to plant.
They do like weeds.
Yes. So we have to be deliberate about these things and make sure that we nurture the country. Now, when my friend Professor Kidiki was talking about schools and so on, I think that it's not. I'm for let's open schools, but let's face our challenges, because we are not going to hide away by not confronting our issues. We should know why schools flood. We should know why roads flood in Meru, and we should deal with it because we have the scientific knowledge to so do. We have design issues to look at. We have water engineers to work with. So we should not fear floods. We should deal with floods. Indeed, we should create our Noah's Ark, even as we know that the floods are coming. So as human beings, we are endowed with skills, we are endowed with knowledge, and that we have been given this world or this stage, as the Lord said in Genesis, to co-create and to manage it with Him. So it's not a question of just running away and talking about it. Let's deal with it. Let's manage it. Let's subdue it. Not just procreate. Let's also subdue the world. Barak is thinking.
Yeah, he's overbraining it.
He's overbraining
it. Let's see what the stories we have this morning. Where embattled agriculture CS Bithika Linturi is fighting to save his position following allegations of involvement in the fake fertilizer scandal. The CS sought to distance himself from allegations of involvement during day 2 of the impeachment hearing against him.
One is Master Chapkoech. She works for Kamino and Kamino. She is here. Yeah, she has always been around.
And the gentleman?
Another one is Wanyonyi Bill. Is our legal assistant.
May I also welcome the CS and his council to introduce themselves. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair and Honorable Members. The Cabinet Secretary is present. He is the person on my immediate left. My name is Mudomi Viankolu. I'm the lead counsel from the team representing the Cabinet Secretary. I am assisted by the following lawyers. 1, Mr. Boniface Mawira. 2, Mr. Eric Muriuki. 3, Mr. Dennis Jeroge. 4, Ms. Daisy Kingori. And lastly, by Mr. Kenson Mutevia, who is my legal assistant. Honorable Chair, we are ready on behalf of the Cabinet Secretary.
If council, please, if there is anyone you have not introduced.
Yes, sorry about that, Honorable Chair. It's because I was introducing the legal team. There is Mr. Joseph Gitonga, who is an official in the CS's office. There is Mr. Ensiu Medika, who is also an official in the CS's office. There is a Mr. Mwandanjagi, who is an advocate. He's not part of my team, but he has an housekeeping matter he would want to raise with you. So if he finds favor with you, if we get there, I would suggest maybe he's better placed than me to raise that housekeeping issue. On our part, we have only one housekeeping issue. We want to be assured that the move of the motion is voluntarily absent because we don't want, again, impressions built. Yesterday there were claims about being trailed by unmarked cars and whatnot. It's very easy to make such claims on the gallery. So we would want an assurance that if he is not here, it is either voluntary or involuntary, because we wouldn't want any aspersions cast as to why he's not here.
May I reply? Honestly, I don't know where he is.
Committee members, he confirmed to me that he'll be joining us later in the day. So he will be joining us. We may as well proceed.
Thank you so much. Yesterday went very well. It was a very heavy day for most of us, but we deliberated. We had enough time to listen to every witness. And I just want to say thank you to each one of you for your patience and for showing a lot of maturity in whatever we did. It is yet another day. My advice to each one of us is to respect one another and give enough opportunity to anybody who will be talking.
Of course, that went late into the night. That is just an excerpt of what was happening yesterday. But more importantly, next week, of course, we know Monday will be the D-Day to go back to school. And it is imagined that 5% of school may not reopen on Monday as planned due to the effects of the ongoing heavy rains and floods. According to Education CS Ezekiel Machogu, 95% of schools countrywide are ready to receive learners except those in areas prone to floods. And as Anne Musungu now reports, opinion is divided over the decision by the government to reopen schools at a time when many schools are still not in a position to receive learners because of damaged infrastructure.
This is the situation at Oseth Primary School in Nyando, Kisumu County. The school, just like 4 others in Agoro village in Nyando, are submerged in water following heavy flooding after River Nyando burst its banks and flooded the entire area. The schools are among those that may not reopen on Monday once schools countrywide resume. It is near impossible for learning to resume going by the flood situation here.
It is now becoming complicated to us because they must go to school, and there are 5. 1, paying school fees is a problem. 2, giving them transport and fare all the times and every day will be also tedious to us.
You to reach Odienya from here, we are using transport means which we are going to use a boat, and the transport cost is 150, so it is 300 in total.
According to the government, the number of schools affected by heavy rains and floods countrywide stands at 5%. Education Cabinet Secretary Ezekiel Machogu, speaking on Thursday, said all the other schools are ready to receive learners on Monday. Countrywide, there are 32,878 public schools, both primary and secondary.
Over 95% of our schools are ready for opening. The ones which are badly affected, I think, are less than 5%.
The current heavy rains have destroyed property, displaced thousands of families, forcing them to seek refuge in nearby schools. The condition not favorable for learning to resume in such areas.
Wakazi wa Mikuyu wanateseka sana kwa sababu daraja iliweza kusomba upande wa kulia na ikawa haiwezi pita. Kwa hivi sasa hakuna gari ama pikipiki inaweza kupita.
Watoto wa primary hawezi wakaingia shule kwa maana maji ni mingi zaidi. Hata secondary pia already madarasa yote yameshaingiliwa na maji.
Besides the challenges of flooding, schools are set to experience a funding crisis following a directive by the CS for them to use capitation release during the end of first term.
The 25% which was given the last week of the term, I'm sure that it has not been put into use in a number of these schools, and they will start with that.
In Busia County, the Red Cross, in collaboration with Busia County government, donated booths in the Budalangi area to help students access the schools.
Na tume alert all the Coast Guard through the office of the DCC and the county commissioner. There's a Red Cross boat, pia engine yenye imefika hapo. Everything has been put on standby for evacuation and life saving.
In order to ensure that learning is not disrupted, the Education Cabinet Secretary Ezekiel Machogu announced today that second time will be extended to compensate for the time lost due to floods disaster.
Might minimize the number of days that schools will be closed down in the month of August, so that whatever was supposed to be covered in the syllabus and the curriculum can be recovered during that particular time.
The Ministry of Education is already, through the regional and the county directors of education, working closely with the national government administration officers, coordinating that effort towards normal resumption of learning in schools.
This means extending the term by about 2 weeks. Ann Musungu, KTN News, Nairobi.
Meanwhile, a memorial service for 61 people who perished in the Mai Mahiu flash floods tragedy was held yesterday, even as search and recovery efforts for bodies of missing persons continued. Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua was among leaders who joined mourners in paying their last respects to the deceased persons. During the service, the local community appealed to the government and other well-wishers to help them re-establish their livelihoods. Ken Gashu has more.
These portraits painted the magnitude of the Mai Mahiu tragedy that occurred on April 29th. The number of fatalities now standing at 61, even as the search and rescue mission for missing persons continue.
The KDF, many other teams together are still searching, and we shall not rest until hopefully we get everybody accounted for.
I think the last body was removed 23 kilometers down. So the ones we can identify who have been missing are 5, but there could be more.
Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua and a host of cabinet secretaries, among other leaders, thus delayed in paying tributes at a joint memorial service for the 61. President William Ruto's condolence message was read by Gachagua.
I extend our condolences to those who have lost their loved ones in the flash floods that hit our country.
Hili janga limetokea hapa ni janga la kitaifa. Si janga tu la Mai Mahiu ama la Naivasha.
Ndiposa leo tuko hapa ili kuweza kumuomba huyu Mungu ili aweze kufanya wepesi katika hii hali ambayo imetukuta.
The affected community making an appeal to the national government to restore their livelihoods.
Constructing their houses, economic empowerment, community water project which can be dedicated in remembrance of the loved ones who we have lost.
We want to beg you and our other leaders here to help us get the road between Mai Mahiu and Kijabi repaired.
In a rejoinder, the government has committed to purchase land for their resettlement and construction of houses in collaboration with the private sector.
We have 85 households that were displaced. When they have lost their loved ones, don't have homes, don't have anything, and we are saying you can't go back there because it's too dangerous. We need 85 houses.
Shamba itapatikana to settle those families. Na tumeongea na huyu PS wetu wa housing, tumekubaliana Department of Housing itatoa 300 million ya kuanza kujenga manyumba kwa hiyo shamba.
The leaders called for strengthening of disaster preparedness and response teams to avert such incidents.
Out of this, tutafanya vile Bishop alisema, tutaajibika kama serikali, kama wale ambao wana ujuzi ya kurekebisha mambo.
Ukakuja miti na mawe ikafunga those culverts. Na ndio maji ikabuild to levels, ikakuja ikavunja chini ya reli na ikaweza kuteremka hapa. It's not a river, ni hiyo maji, na ni kwa sababu design ni ya zamani. It is advisable that tuweze kuangalia tena mambo ya hiyo railway so that we don't get to this kind of a problem again.
Ken Gashuhi, KTN News.
And as heavy rains persist, hundreds of Kenyans have been displaced, forcing them to seek refuge in temporary camps. Many are stranded in Kakamega County, while uncertainty prevails among hundreds of residents in Kiambu County. Our reporter, Fidik Olwach has more.
According to the Kenya Meteorological Department forecast, the heavy rainfall that has been experienced nationwide is expected to subside, the forecast prompting President William Ruto to announce the reopening of schools for second term this coming Monday. However, despite the forecast, heavy rains persist in various parts of the country, causing distress for many. In Kiambu County, more than 200 families have been evacuated due to floods, with over 60 houses swept away in Gitaru Village, Kabete constituency.
Maji ni mingi imeingia kwa nyumba inabomoka na tunaomba usaidizi, hatujapata usaidizi yoyote, wanakuja wanatuangalia na hakuna kitu wanatuambia.
Nyumba zinaendelea kusink kwa sababu maji imekunywa ya kutosha. Hata unaona ukuta iko karibu kuanguka. Ukiangalia kama hii yetu imekunywa maji, iko karibu kuanguka kwa sababu hiyo maji hakuna pahali inaenda, shoo zote zimejaa kila kitu. Kwa hivyo nyumba zinaendelea kusink. Mvua ikiendelea hivyo tutakuwa na shida sana.
The Red Cross, in collaboration with the government, is aiding over 1,200 affected people in Kino area, Kiambu County.
We have a total of 540 people who have been displaced. Majority of them have relocated from their ordinary residences, and they have rejoined their families, have been reintegrated with their families. Here we have, we're providing them with non-food items to support them, utensils, blankets, sanitary facilities.
Elsewhere, in Monamukia village in Ruiru, residents continue to appeal to government and humanitarian assistance amidst the raging floods.
Kuna wamama wako wajawazito wawili hapa, kuna tutoto dogo, wengine akona mapacha, na hata watoto wenyewe hawapati chakula yao vizuri. Tunapika githeri na mtoto mdogo hawezi kula githeri. Ni watu kujitolea tu, mtu kama akona kitu anakuja anatuona, anatusaidia chenye kimepatikana.
These affected people are currently seeking shelter at the Kawendani Primary School and are unable to return home due to the ongoing floods.
Honestly speaking, even if as a school we would be ready to receive pupils or to receive our learners, it is not possible looking at the conditions of the parents. Some are still in camps, some are in churches, their waters are flooded, so we need a little bit of time, let's say 2 weeks, for the water to recede.
Meanwhile, in Kakamega County, over 1,000 people remain displaced, with the county expecting to spend over 100 million Kenyan shillings in rescue efforts.
We have liaised with the county government of Kakamega, the national government, the committee team plus the security team have come up with a situation where we are coming up with a budget at least to prepare so that areas that can be done both in terms of food items and non-food items can be acquired.
Finik Oluoch, KTN News.
The AstraZeneca has recalled its previous vaccines for COVID-19, deeming them ineffective to fight the new strains. The company says the rise of new coronavirus variants means demand has shifted to the newer updated vaccines. Husna Mohammed has more.
AstraZeneca has begun the worldwide withdrawal of its COVID-19 vaccine due to a surplus of available updated vaccines that target new variants of the COVID-19. In March, the vaccine manufacturer voluntarily withdrew its European Union marketing authorization, and on 7th May, the European Medicines Agency issued a notice that the vaccine is no longer authorized for use within the European Union. In a statement, AstraZeneca said the decision was made due to the availability of newer vaccine varieties. The latest varieties of vaccines have been adapted to target the emerging COVID-19 variants. It also said the rise of new coronavirus variants meant demand has shifted to the newer updated vaccines. Some countries have already stopped supplying the vaccine. It has not been available for use in Australia since March 2023. Our effort to get a statement from the Ministry of Health has proven futile to confirm whether, as a country, we're also stopping the supply of the vaccine. AstraZeneca changed the name of its COVID vaccine in 2021, was authorized for use on people aged 18 and above, delivered as 2 injections. It was also used by some countries as a booster shot. Although the vaccine was found to be safe and effective overall, it carried the risk of a rare and sometimes fatal form of blood clots known as thrombosis, the rare syndrome, occurring about 2 to 3 people per 100,000 who were vaccinated with the vaccine. In the race to lift the world out of pandemic lockdowns, the COVID vaccine was developed at an accelerated time of 10 months. Usually, such a process takes 10 years to complete. With the ever-evolving COVID-19 variants, the pharmaceutical companies have to keep up with its trends to manufacture updated vaccines. Husna Mohammed, KTN News, Nairobi.
Azmiola Umoja One Kenya leader Raila Odinga ramped up his campaigns for the Africa Union Commission chairperson position, meeting with at least 6 heads of state who attended the Africa Fertilizer and Soil Health Summit at KICC. Raila was seen shaking hands and exchanging pleasantries with President Faustin Todare, President of the Central African Republic, Dr. Lazarus Chakwera, President of the Republic of Malawi, Hakainde Hichilema, President of the Republic of Zambia, Emerson Mnangagwa, President of the Republic of Zimbabwe, Nangolo Mumba, President of the Republic of Namibia, and Gavier Ndikarukubusha, the Prime Minister of the Republic of Burundi. The former Prime Minister also attended the International Development Association, that is IDA 21 Summit in Nairobi last week, where he met at least 20 African heads of state and government. Right, as we take a short break, this is also what will be our entry and segue to a conversation of, at least we've given you the stories, Linturi spotless or stubborn stain. As you can see him being dragged there to Parliament. Is it a laundry basket, a laundry machine there, right, to sanitize him? That is Linturi. We hope, and everyone is looking at the committee if he'll come out spotless clean, or maybe there's some stubborn stains that will remain. All right. And which way? Hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil. And this is how Raila now is being juggled around, so to speak, according to Ozone. So can hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil. And the oranges are still intact there, as you can see. All right. That is Ozone in today's publication in the Star. And that has been the slugouts between the government and the doctors. 56 rounds, not bad. We leave it at that for now. Luta continua. Doctors versus government, and those were the days that we've seen the strike ongoing, but finally we have a happy medium, and doctors at least are happy for now. That's what we can say. Excuse me, we take a short break.